first one, we didn't actually do any problem exactly like this one on Friday, but we talked about all the properties you need to do it. So there are a couple different ways. I saw a couple of people distributed the exponent to both and had 121 to the -3 halves and 100 to the -3 halves, which is fine. We also had a couple people that saw the negative and said that's just going to flip my fraction. They started out flipping the whole thing and writing it with a positive exponent. Both are correct. I think that might be a little bit easier to look at. So the negative makes it 100 over 121, and then it's a +3 halves power. So then, we talked about this property Friday, that a fraction exponent is really a radical. So the denominator is your index out here. The numerator is your power. And so then we could simplify this. What is the square root of 100? 10. What's the square root of 121? And then we cube it. So 10 to the third. And 11 to the third. Now, could you plug that original one into your calculator? Absolutely. But we are going to also talk about some that have variables in them, and we don't have the ability to just plug it into the calculator with variables. So that's why I worked it through and made sure we understand what's happening there. All right, number 2, m to the 4th to the 0. What's anything to the 0 power become? 1. Anything to the 0 power is a 1. All right. Then we have the 9m to the -3. All right. What does a negative exponent do? Flips it. Now, only the m has a negative exponent, so only the m will flip. The m will come up to the top. The 9 did not have a negative exponent, so it stays down on the bottom. So it's m to the 3rd over 9. Right. Number 3. On the numerator, if I multiply this, we have 8x. If you take y times y to the 3rd, what do you do with those exponents? Add them. So 1 plus 3 is 4. So 8x y to the 4th over 4x to the 5th y to the 4th. So now we simplify that. If you have y's on top and bottom, what happens? Okay. -8 divided by 4 is -2. We have 1x on top, 5 on the bottom. So there's more on the bottom. It will end down there. Subtract exponents. 5 minus 1 is 4. So -2 over x to the 4th. All right, and number 4. If we are multiplying, but the x is written each time, what do we do with those exponents? Add them. Use calculator if you need to. 2/3 plus 1/2 plus -1/4. So the x would be 11/12. Any questions there? Let's look at a couple more problems with just simplified these. All right, if I just told you to simplify this using properties of exponents, we're trying to combine everything that we can. So we're first going to look at the top. What would I have to do with this 1/3 power? Distribute. Power to a power we multiply. So you're multiplying with the exponent already there. So 2 times 1/3 is 2/3. So x to the 2/3. This is a y to the first. 1 times 1/3 is 1/3. Then we do the same thing with the next parenthesis. So for my x's, 1 times 2/3 is 2/3. My y, 2 times 2/3 is 4/3. Now, on the numerator, we have fractions, we have parentheses, but all it's telling us is to multiply. So we can multiply things together. Since the x's are in both parentheses, we need to add their exponents. So 2/3 plus 2/3. That's 4/3. For the y's, you add your exponents. 1/3 plus 4/3 is 5/3. To finish it, what do we do when we divide? Subtract our exponents. So for my x's, 4/3 minus 2/3 is 2/3. For my y, 5/3 minus 2/3 is 1. So we just get x to the 2/3 y. So we have to distribute. When I do that, if I'm multiplying these m's, what do we do with the exponents? Add them. So 2/3 plus 7/3, 9/3, which is 3. Plus, distribute it to this one. 2m, 2/3 plus 1/3 is just 1. So you can write the 1 or just leave it as an m. So m cubed plus 2m. Any questions on those problems? I want to look at a couple problems involving radicals and just talk about how to simplify these. The next section will have more with radicals. So I want to try to do these problems without our calculator just to focus on understanding what that radical is saying. And then once we get to the next section, we'll have variables, so we couldn't use the calculator anyway. So if I asked you to simplify it, 36 to the 1/2 power, without just typing it in the calculator, I'm asking you what that 1/2 power means. So if the exponent is a fraction, it always turns into a radical. The denominator is your index, so it just tells me it's a square root of 36. The numerator is just my exponent there, 2 to the first. What is the square root of 36? 6. So 6 to the first is just 6. Right, now, on these problems, exponents only hit what's directly in front of it. So the negative here is out in front. So I'm going to do my 1,296 to the 1/4, and the negative out in front just trails along. So this is just asking me for the 4th root of 1,296. So the negative out in front stays. You may not have known the 4th root of that. You could use your calculator. We get a negative 6. If I said 16 to the negative 3/4 power, what does the negative do to it? Instead of fraction, puts it on the denominator, so it's 1/16 to the 3/4. So if I were trying to clean this up without just plugging it in, that means we have the 4th root of 16 to the 3rd on the bottom. What is the 4th root of 16? And 2 to the 3rd power is 8. Alright, so D, this time, the negative 27 is inside my parentheses, so the 2/3 applies to all of it. So it's the cube root of negative 27 squared. What is the cube root of negative 27? Negative 3, yeah. And then negative 3 squared, it's positive 9. Any questions on taking those exponents and rewriting it as radicals to simplify? Last type of problem in this section. We've had factoring problems. We can still do factoring when we have negative exponents. It doesn't change the process at all. So if I asked you to take out the GCF here, first focus on our coefficients. 28 and negative 21, sorry, 28 and 21 would be 7. All right, for my variables, think about a different example for a second. If I said like 28y to the 5th plus 21y to the 2nd, you would take out 7y to what power? You would have taken out the 2. If those exponents were positive, you would take out the 2. Why did you pick 2 instead of 5? Okay, the greatest common factor, you're looking for what they both have. Can I take 5 y's out of this one if there's only 2? No, so we had to go with the smaller of the 2 exponents. So if these are negative, what's smaller? -5 or -2? -5 is smaller. Because think about like on a number line, it's further over to the left. Okay, it's a smaller number. When you factor these out, it's like dividing. Okay, so 28 divided by 7 is 4. We had y to -5. I took them all out, so the y's are gone. 21 divided by 7 is 3. When you're dividing, what do we do with the exponents? We subtract, which turns into an adding here because it's like -2 minus -5. Minus and negative makes positive, so it becomes y to the third. So the reason we took out the -5 is so that we only had positive exponents left in this parenthesis. And how could we always check ourselves? We distribute it out, we should get the original back. So it should be 28y to -5 plus 21y to the -2. I want you guys to do this one. Take out the greatest common factor formula. 6, with our variables, we didn't have negatives this time, we had fractions, but the same principle. You just take out the smaller power, so 1/3. Alright, so 18 divided by 6 is 3. For the variables, you're dividing or subtracting your exponents. 4/3 minus 1/3 is just 3/3 or 1. 12 divided by 6 is 2. You add it into the 1/3 and took it out. So that would be our final answer. Is that one okay? What about this one? So if I'm looking at this, I have two terms. Those are separated by addition and subtraction. So here's a term, and here's a term. They both have the x plus 3, so I'm going to factor out that entire parenthesis. You take out the smaller exponent. What's smaller, -2/5 or +3/5? When I take that out, you can think of it as dividing. What happens if you take something and divide it by itself? Cancels out and leaves a 1. Okay, so this one. When I divide, I'm subtracting 3/5 minus -2/5. It's a positive. And that's 5/5 or just 4. So I get 1 minus x plus 3. Inside here, I could clean this up a little bit, distribute my negative, combine like terms. So we have a -x, 1 plus -3 is -2. You could even, what do both of these terms have on them? A negative. You could factor out a negative if you want. You just bring it to the front of the entire thing if you choose to do that. All right. Any questions? So Friday, I opened up a Math Excel assignment. It's